In today's video, as you saw in the title, we're going to talk about the murder of Breck Bednar. But before we start this video, make sure you subscribe to my channel if you haven't done already and click the bell next to it so you can get notified every time I upload a new video. I upload videos every Saturday, and this case was suggested by one of you, and if you have a suggestion, you can reach out for me through the comments or through my social media. My Instagram and my Twitter will be linked down below in the description box. I also have a TikTok account. I haven't been doing much videos there lately, but I'm trying to get back there, so follow me there if you want to. But without any further ado, let's just start this video. Breck Bednar was born in March 17 of 1999 to Lauren Lafave and Barry Bednar in Caterham, Surrey. Lauren and Barry were from the United States, but they moved to the United Kingdom in 1996 for Barry's job in the oil trading industry. In 1999, they had their first son, Breck, and in 2002, Lauren gave birth to triplets, Carly, Chloe, and Sebastian. Every day was filled with joy and laughter. They seemed to be a very happy family, and they were very happy. And Breck loved playing with his siblings and teaching them new things, and the triplets also loved their big brother and looked up to him. But 6 years after the triplets were born, Lauren and Barry decided to split up. Lauren and the kids stayed at the house in Surrey and Barry moved out. But he continued to be present in his kids' life. And Breck still had a very strong relationship with his father. So Breck was a good student. When he was old enough, he joined the Army Training Corps. In his free time, he used to play computer games and chatting with his friends. He used a program called TeamSpeak. Lauren got a job as a teaching assistant in a local primary school. She started to see someone, and she had a lot of friends over for gatherings and parties at the house. Family went to church every Sunday, and everything seemed to be normal and good, until Breck started to change his behavior. On March of 2013, Breck celebrated his 14th birthday, and it was around this time that he started to isolate himself. Lauren started to get bothered by his unpredictable moods every time he left his room after spending hours talking to his friends. He started to refuse to go to church and miss sessions of the Army Training Corps, and he loved that. He was so dedicated to that in the beginning. So this was really weird. But Lauren soon realized what was causing the changes in Breck's behavior. Breck rarely brought up a boy named Lewis, and this boy was part of the exclusive 6-person gaming club. Lauren knew that Breck's old friends from school were also part of this club, but she had never heard of Lewis before. And Breck would often have arguments with his mother about things that Lewis said that he shouldn't have to do. For example, Breck would complain that he shouldn't have to do the chores around the house if he wasn't making a mess. I'm sorry, my boy, but you also help making the mess. Even though you don't realize it, you help get the house dirty so you can help clean it. At least that's how it works in my house. Breck would also complain about having to go to church because Lewis said I shouldn't have to go if he didn't believe in God. Lewis Daynes was a 19-year-old unemployed computer engineer who spent day and night playing games online with Breck and his friends. But no one really knew much about him. He lived alone after moving out of his parents' house when he was 16. And he had no friends outside of the gaming community. The games were on his server, and he was the one who controlled the group chat on the TeamSpeak. And Lewis loved the power he had over Breck and his friends. To impress the boys, he came up with a bunch of lies, including that he was a multimillionaire who worked for the US Department of Defense. Depending on wherever mood he was on that day, he will tell the boys that he was working in New York, in Dubai, or in Syria, when in reality he lived in a flat in Grace, Texas. So the boys were very young. They were 14 years old, so they literally believed everything and anything that Lewis would tell them, and they really thought that he was telling the truth. No one can blame them. They were teenagers. They were 14. They were so young and naive. But Lewis loved to manipulate the boys and turn them against each other. And because he was the one who controlled the group chat, he could expel the members anytime he pleased. And that only made things worse between Breck and his friends, because Lewis was always trying to turn them against each other. That was his favorite pastime, basically. So Breck's friends were starting to get very annoyed with what Lewis was doing to them. They were frequently getting kicked out of the games and muted on the group chat. So they start to distance themselves from Lewis. Breck, on the other hand, his loyalty to Lewis just kept growing. His friends expressed their concerns and about Lewis to Breck, but he just shrugged them off, and sometimes he got very angry and defensive. So by this time, Breck's relationship with his friends and even with his family were started to be very difficult. He now brought up Lewis like several times a day and even told Lauren that Lewis was going to get him an apprenticeship at Microsoft when he turned 16 so he wouldn't have to finish school. By this time, Lauren was sure that whoever this Lewis guy was, he was a pedophile who was lying to her son about everything. His age, where he lived, his impressive achievements, everything. So she tried to limit Breck's access to his computer and forbid him from using Lewis' server. So she called the police on December 17th of 2013. So she expressed her concerns that her son was probably being groomed by Lewis for most likely sex or terrorist acts. And this was because Lauren had overheard Lewis expressing his anti-governmental and anti-religious beliefs to Breck on several occasions. Lauren spoke to the operator for 12 minutes, repeatedly expressing her concerns about her son being groomed. The operator told her that police checks will be carried out on Lewis and if needed an investigation will take place. But those checks never took place. They never happened. The inquiry was closed just 1 hour after she made the call. That was a huge mistake, because if they had looked into it, if they had investigated it, they would find something. They would. And probably I wouldn't have to do this video right now. Breck had a plan for February 16 of 2014. It was the day that he was meeting Lewis for the first time. So Lewis told Breck that he needed to hand over his multi-million-pound tech company over to him and had to show him the ropes. The two had known each other for over a year at that time, and Breck considered Lewis a good friend. And Breck's friends from school didn't use Lewis' server anymore, and Breck didn't care that he was losing his real friends. He really looked up to Lewis and he believed everything that he said he was. And I mean, as I said, we can really blame him. He was 14. This time he was almost 15, but still he was so young and so naive. But Lewis, on the other hand, had waited for this to happen all along. He saw something special in Breck that he didn't see in his friends. On February 17 of 2014 was the first day of the half term. Breck told his father, whom he was going to spend the half term with, that he was going to sleep at a friend's house in the night of the 16th. He also told his father that the friend's house was only a few streets over from the family house in Caterham. And Barry was happy that Breck was having a sleepover because at least he wouldn't spend the all night in front of his computer like he used to. But in reality, Breck was planning to get a taxi paid by Lewis that would took them from Caterham to Grace. That was 30 miles away. So on that evening, Breck walked down the street out of the side of his house, got into a taxi, and that was the last time he was seen alive. So his father waited for him to arrive the next morning. He called and he texted, but he got no response. So he was starting to get a little worried, so he called Lauren saying that Breck was not there and that he should have arrived by that time. Shortly after Barry called Lauren, Breck's friends began to receive messages containing photos of a bloody dead body, and it didn't take long for them to realize that it was Breck. So these images circulated quickly among Breck's friends and acquaintances, and it didn't take long for his siblings to see those pictures. At around 11 a.m., Access Police received a call from a man explaining that he needed police and a forensic team because he and his friend had gotten into an altercation and only one of them came out alive. He was very calm, explaining that his friend had tried to kill himself and he just tried to stop him. He went on saying that he grabbed a knife and stabbed him in the back of his neck, probably near the brainstem. He said he didn't remember exactly what happened, but the fight ended up with him cutting his friend's throat. So this man on the phone was Lewis Daynes, and he was describing how he killed Breck. When police arrived at the scene, it became clear that it never had been an altercation, as the man had said in the phone. The attack had been completely one-sided. Breck's body laid on the floor of Lewis' flat. His ankles and wrists were tied up with duct tape, and he had a deep cut across his throat. Breck's bloody clothes were discovered in a big bag inside the flat, and there was evidence of sexual activity between the two shortly before Breck was killed. Police also found all of Lewis' encrypted electronic equipment immersed in water in his sink. Probably he was trying to destroy any evidence that he and Breck had been communicating, or anything else suspicious that he was trying to hide. Lewis was arrested at the scene and was taken into custody. And to make everything worse, the day that Breck was found murdered was Lauren's birthday. Initially, Lewis claimed that Breck's murder was accidentally, but detectives easily saw that he was lying. His trial was due to begin in November 25th of 2014, but he changed his plea to guilty during his pre-trial hearing. Lewis' sentencing took place on January 12th of 2015, and he was sentenced to serve a minimum of 25 years in prison for the murder of Breck Bednar. Lauren and Barry sued Essex and Surrey police departments for failing to protect their son after Lauren reported her concerns of grooming. So investigations were made in both departments, and it was found that the person who took Lauren's call lacked the knowledge of how to handle those situations and those reports properly. Lauren should have been directed to a specialist agency who knows how to handle and to support parents who have concerns that their child is being groomed. And also, the police national computer was never checked to see if there was any record of Lewis Daynes. And guess what? There was. Lewis had been accused of raping a boy under the age of 16 in 2011. So if they had looked into this, they would give Lauren's reported attention he deserved. I think this is something that should be talked more about in schools. Because parents can control everything. No matter how many times your parents tell you like you cannot do something, if you're a teenager, you're gonna find a way to do it. The more they tell you that you cannot do it, the more you want to do it. So yeah, I think this is something that should really be talked more about in schools, and not only when tragedies like this happen. I remember when I was in high school, there was something, like it was a game, it was called Blue Whale. And basically, if you got into the game, you couldn't get out. The only way to get out was by committing suicide, and that's how the game ended. You basically had to do a lot of challenges, and you have to prove that you did it. I remember that when this became viral, everyone at school talked about this and teachers talked about this, but after it was over, no one talked about this anymore. No one told us that don't talk to strangers online, don't play these games to hurt yourself because you have like to cut your arms and stuff, or jump in front of a train. It was challenges like that. That was, I think it was like the last level of the game, because last level was to commit suicide. So I think this is a really important subject to be talked about in schools. I really think this should be talked about in schools more to avoid things like this to happen in the future. But that's all for this video. Leave your thoughts about this case in the comments as usual. And if you're new to my channel, please subscribe. It really means the world to me. But only do it if you like my videos. And if you do, click the bell next to the subscribe button so you get notified every time I upload a new video. I upload videos every Saturday. And if you want to test the case, you can reach out to me through the comments or through my social media. My Instagram and my Twitter will be linked down below in the description box. That's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on my next video. Bye bye!